Hey everybody, welcome back to the Driveway Engineer. I'm JR, and today I'm here with my little fluffy dogs. We're hanging out. Say hi, Peanut. We're hanging out in the house. I want to make another video. Today I want to go over which ECM you should use. Should you use an aftermarket one? Should you use a factory one? So let me fire up the screen capture software here and we'll get started. I'm going to do this whole thing on the computer so you guys can see what I'm talking about, and hopefully that'll help you make some decisions. Alright, so to sum all that up, really, and I'll just put a tag in the beginning to tell you where to jump to. Most people, most of the time, doing these swaps, if you're just don't know what to do and you're looking at some of this other stuff because you think it's easier or cheaper or whatever, in the end it's really not. Most people do the stock ECM, the stock harness. It can run your transmission, it can run your fans, it can do everything you need and stuff that you probably don't know about. It can run turbos, it can do 2-steps. There's a lot of stuff the stock computer can do. It's more than enough for anybody running up to like 9-second quarter miles and 4-digit power. It really is. So if you've been listening to me and you bought everything together, engine, harness, just do that. Use the stock ECM and harness. And if your donor comes from a vehicle that had drive-by-wire, make sure you get the pedal and the tach module. If you don't want to use them, remember, on the Driveway Engineer Facebook group, I will have a list of service numbers for green-blue ECMs that do have IAC in the file section. So that's all you'll have to do. Just change to an ECM that has idle air control and you can keep your green-blue harness. If you're on an extreme budget and you don't have an electronic trans, like you have a manual transmission or you're using a turbo 350 or 400, which I don't recommend for most people, but if it's like a trail vehicle or a rock buggy or a mud truck or whatever, something like that, or just a drag racer, a weekend drag racer, the MicroSquirt is worth a look. It's $380 and it will run, again, up to like 1,000 horsepower vehicle. It'll drive the injectors, it'll read the map sensor that you need for a big turbo, and it'll be a cleaner, smaller harness, and you'll be able to get into it realistically for cheaper than the stock ECM and harness. So if you just went dirt cheap and used the stock truck fuse box, the entire stock harness, didn't delume any of it, didn't, send it out or anything, and had a $40 flash, you can do this route cheaper. But for most people, they're going to send it out and have a real tune, and they're going to do a standalone harness. So at a minimum, you're going to be like $500 for stock ECM and harness, and at a minimum, you're going to be like $400 for the MicroSquirt. So if you just truly don't care about overdrive transmission and it's more of an off-road vehicle, as in drag race, road race, whatever, the MicroSquirt is a really good deal. If you're going to go racing and make big power and you really need to be able to do all these different inputs and outputs and have data channels and things like that, I think that the MS3, the MegaSquirt 3 Pro, is the best value. Other people will disagree with me with that. There's a Holley Dominator, there's other high-end stuff. But if you're into that, you're probably not watching this video anyway. But if you're really going to race, you're going to do, like drag week or something like that, I think that, and you're going to run twins, and you're going to have water meth injection, and you're going to have big power, like more than the stock bottom end will take, then this is where it's at. But most people, really most people, will be fine. Like my truck makes, real close to 700 horsepower on a stock ECM and harness. So people have pushed them a lot further than I have. So first up, I'm going to cover the OE computers and harnesses. there's no reason not to run an OE harness or computer, period. There's just not. Even if you're racing, like if you're making like under 1,000 horsepower, the factory stuff will work just fine for you and will do everything you need it to do. Okay, and you can do a complete wiring harness, drop it on for $1,000 for under $700. One thing that I see people get all hung up on is the connector colors, the red, blue versus the green, blue. So I want to cover that real quick. Hopefully, I harp on this all the time. Get an engine with everything. Get an engine with the fuse block, the harness, the computer. Get an engine with everything. Don't piecemeal this stuff together. If you're just trying to get an LS into your vehicle and have 300 tire horsepower, you know, and drive around and have overdrive and have modern electronic control, just get a truck engine and get everything with it. Don't get hung up on is it a 6.0, a 4.8, a 6.2. Just get a complete truck engine, a complete takeout. Now, these red-blue connectors don't necessarily mean that it's a 411 ECM. The 411 ECM was a service replacement for the earlier computers, and there's no difference. Like to you, if you're just a guy with a cam swap and a stock engine, it doesn't matter. Whatever one it comes with is fine. If you have some weird chassis where you have to use, where there's not, if you have some weird chassis where it's going to be easier for you to use a drive-by cable pedal, then you need to find a green-blue connector that can do that. Okay? All red-blue connectors can do drive-by wire or drive-by cable. It's just a matter of programming change. You just have to tell whoever programs your ECM that you're doing drive-by wire and have the pedal that matches this. Okay? So that means the pedal out of your donor. Trying to mix and match stuff later, it's incredibly difficult, and it's easier if you're just starting out to get everything you need. However, it's easiest when you're starting out to just do drive-by cable, because you just hook a cable to your pedal in whatever vehicle you have right now, and hook the other, get a long enough one and hook at the other end to your throttle body. So it's simplest to just stick with drive-by cable, for the same reason it's simplest just to stick with the Gen 3 stuff and not go to the Gen 4 stuff. These green-blue connectors are what most people would call a P59 or, drive-by wire. They're not all drive-by wire. If you get one of these green-blue from a van, it will be drive-by cable. It will have the IAC drivers. I've never seen one that doesn't have the IAC drivers in it for the idle air control. That's what that's for. It's like your choke. It's what makes the engine idle. Okay? All red-blue have idle air control. They have that choke so that it'll idle cold, and that's what you need to have a drive-by cable pedal. Okay? Otherwise, there's nothing to control to hold the throttle blade open while you're idling when it's cold. So the truck green and blue never have the idle air control. I never see them. I'm sure it's the internet and these videos are popular. Somebody's going to pop on and be like, I have 7. Whatever. If you have this, you can turn this harness into this harness or this harness into this harness. Doesn't matter. It's best to just use everything. So if you have this, the easiest thing to do is either tell your harness builder that you want this, and he'll convert it, and you can go get a 411 ECM, and they're like $40 or $20 at the junkyard. Literally every van from like 2000 up has this until 03 when they all went to this. Or go find a van that's an 03 and it'll have the IAC controllers, and you can keep this. So, if you have a van ECM and you want to do drive-by cable, you can use this. If you want to do drive-by cable and you have a truck ECM, you need to either go get a van ECM or go get a 411 ECM and switch your harness to this. It's only a few wires that move. It's not that difficult. Trust me, you can do it. And it's not that hard. So moving on, I mean, and they both have like OS upgrades and stuff like that. If you're in the turbo stuff or nitrous or want to do trans brakes or want to do flex fuel, both of these are capable of doing that. So there's really nothing that you're going to do under 1,000 horsepower that either one of these can't do. So don't get hung up on real-time tuning. I never do it. I have it. I tried it. I never do it. You still have to pull over and write the flash, so you might as well pull over and write the change anyway. It doesn't matter. Just don't get hung up on this stuff. Get everything you need, and if you can adapt your drive-by cable pedal or your drive-by wire pedal, it'll be even easier to just use the drive-by wire. It's cleaner. You don't have to mess with the cable. If you can make the drive-by wire pedal fit in your chassis, then use that for sure. It's the way to go every 100% of the time. Cruise control works so much easier. All you need to do is run a wire to the ECM for cruise. It's just way easier. I don't want to get into wiring in this video, but I mean, I want to save that for a separate video. So I just want to cover ECM changes. And the biggest benefit of either one of these is they will run an overdrive electronic automatic transmission. So they will run a 60, they will run an 80, they'll do it natively. You don't need a $600 add-on to do it. When it comes, like, what I wanted, my goal with these videos is to give you guys options, okay? There are, like I said in the last video, there are many ways to skin a cat, and most of them work. But also my goal is to kind of wade through some of those flippant, you know, offhanded comments you get on Facebook where some guy's like, oh, you need this, or you gotta have that, or, you know, if you do it like that, it's gonna be junk, or whatever. So to just get to the point, like what I recommend for 99% of people, 99% of the time, is you use the factory computer and the factory harness, and you can do that for $600-700 depending on how you go. It's gonna be cheaper and it's gonna work for you, okay? There are a lot of people who are like, oh, you can't make changes or whatever. Well, like, really, how often do you make changes? You got to step back from some of the nonsense going on. Like, you're driving around right now, right? How often do you just whip out your laptop and make changes? I have HP tuners, and I still don't make that many changes. You know, I screw around and I try stuff as I learn. But for the most part, I just drive around the way it is. But nevertheless, you know, some people are going for a certain thing, certain look, whatever. So I'm going to go through, you know, your common options. There are, of course, more than these, but I don't want to make an hour-long video. You know, I know people don't really watch much longer than 10 minutes. So, and I just want to get to the point. So, first of all, the first option for aftermarket stuff is going to be FiTech. And the FiTech, this one right here, the Ultimate LS. Now, this doesn't include the intake, but it does have transmission control. So this will control your 4L60, 65, 70, or 80 transmission. Whatever you have, this will run it. It has a whole harness, injectors, coils, everything. So you don't have to add in the cost of a harness. You don't have to add in the cost of tuning. Everything's here in one kit. So this is a pretty good option. I think I like it. I haven't used it. I've used a FiTech in the past, and their customer support was basically non-existent. They like to say that, you know, they self-tune or whatever, but really they don't. And I think that that's why a lot of people go with them, is because A, they're intimidated by wiring, so this does provide a wiring harness with everything labeled. And B, they're intimidated by tuning, or they don't have a tuner in their area, you know, that they have confidence in. So you're still going to have to learn to tune this. There's user groups on Facebook and stuff like that if you want to use it. And I think that this is the best option, the 70051, as of December of 2018. These other ones, like this 795 one, doesn't do transmission control, and you obviously want that. And then this $1,500 one includes a cool looking intake, but it actually is going to kill power for you. So you probably don't want to mess with that either. So the next big option that everybody uses is the Holley here, the HP EFI And this includes everything you need. It has the harness, it has the Holley EFI software that you need, all that kind of stuff. It has a lot of features. It has a lot of really cool stuff that it can do. It can do up to 5-bar map. You can do a handheld programmer, a touch screen. You can do boost control, progressive nitrous control, water injection. It has a lot of features on it that are pretty easy to use and pretty easy to work with. But it does not do trans control, and it is $1,700 or whatever you can find it for online. I didn't shop for best price, but so I imagine you can get it a little bit off, but it doesn't do trans control, and you're going to pay at least $500 for standalone trans control, or at least $400 if you go with a MicroSquirt, which a lot of people don't know about, and I will touch on that right now. So next up is the MS3 Pro. You may have seen Matt Happel use these. There are a lot of MegaSquirt different stuff that you can do, and I don't want to get into all of them, but you can do these like the original MegaSquirt, the kits, and for $500 this is a ECU that you literally build. It comes with a bunch of resistors, and like you have to sit down with this board and solder all that stuff in. And for me, it looked pretty fun, and I'd really like to do one, but I understand that most people are not going to do that and are going to be intimidated by it. So I'm not recommending these for the average person, just because like it's more than the average person wants to do. If you're willing to do all that, then you're not watching these videos about LS Swap Basics. So the MS3 Pro, it's going to have a lot of the same features as the Holley EFI. It has a bunch of different inputs and outputs. It can do speed, density, it can do alpha N, it can do math. It can run up to 12 cylinders. It can do VVT control. It can do flex fuel. It can run on a wideband. All these aftermarket ones can run on a wideband, and it's how they supposedly self-tune. But you really have to make changes to the base tune anyway. You're not gonna just hook this up and like go drive. And again, if you're racing, you know, these are features that you might need, but if you're not, if you're just like trying to drive around in a more modern truck, it's really not, you know, stuff you're going to use, so why pay for it? And again, this does not do trans control for $1,500. Now this one brings me to the MicroSquirt, and this one's really interesting. I really like the MicroSquirt. Like, if you just want an LS engine and you don't care at all about electronic trans control, and you don't care at all about any of the other stuff, like for $380 you get this little MicroSquirt and this harness that you hook into your factory harness, and it'll run the car, it'll run the engine. So if you're going to use a Turbo 350, Turbo 400, if you're just racing or have an off-road toy or off-road buggy or whatever, this is definitely an interesting little swap, because, you know, it's like the size of a credit card. Seriously, it's smaller than my cell phone. So these are really neat, and they do the self-tuning thing and whatever. They got a lot of the same options. They'll do up to 3-bar map. One thing that they don't have is idle air control natively, so they're a little cold-blooded. I've used one before. It was fine. I was able to tune around it. This is a really simple, straightforward, you know, thing to do if you're just trying to get on the road. I may very well do this in my wife's Olds 98, because I think I might just stick an LS in it with a Turbo 400 and let it go at that, because it's got 256 gears and I'm not going to change them. And there is an aftermarket idle air controller add-on that you can get for these if idle air control is just absolutely important to you. But these are really interesting, and they're really cheap, and I think they're a pretty good option. Now that brings me to the last point, which is the cost of a standalone controller. So I want to cover this real quick, because you'll see these and you'll be like, well, JR said they're $600 and this is $300. This is a full manual TCM, okay? And it is at full line pressure all the time. So you have to shift it up, you have to shift it down. It's not going to work, you know, seamlessly like it should. And you can actually achieve this by shorting a couple pins, and maybe I'll do a video on that if there's enough interest. But it's actually, even if you don't care and you just want to manually control it, you can short the solenoids without this. So it's pointless. Just forget about that. The common ones are like the TCI Auto ECU. You see it's $615. There's a few other ones. This US Shift one. I'll just scroll through these on Jags real quick. So the Performance Automatic standalone, $840. The TCI Easy TCU, $615. The GMPP, or whatever they're calling themselves now, $1,200. MSD standalone, $600. You get the point. They're quite expensive. One thing you can do that's not so expensive is use a MicroSquirt, which I just showed, as a transmission controller. And DIY Auto-Tune offers these. So you can actually link this through their CAN controller to another MicroSquirt or a MegaSquirt, so that they're seamlessly integrated. So that it's not actually standalone, it's just the TCM. But all in all, in my opinion, for 99% of people, 99% of the time, you know, you're putting in an engine with a cam and you're not, like, in headers, you know, and that's it. You're not really changing anything. So I don't think it's necessary for most people to go to an aftermarket standalone system. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. That's really it. The next video, I think I'm going to do wiring. Of course, I'm open to suggestions. You can leave them in the comments below. Be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button. I appreciate it. And be sure to check me out on my Facebook group at The Driveway Engineer on Facebook. And that's where it's easiest to get in touch with me. If you have more questions or more suggestions, or want to tell me I'm stupid or whatever. So yeah, until next time, this is JR, The Driveway Engineer. Thanks for watching.